Hi everybody, Brian here from Wagging Woofies. Today we're going to discuss dog walking 101, how to walk your dog properly. So we just have to understand leash control to begin with. We have to understand that a leash is a restraint and that it is inhibiting the dog from moving freely as they normally would. And I know we're by law restricted to keeping these animals on leash and by our sides at all times to have control over our dogs. If there really was control, you wouldn't have leash aggression issues. You wouldn't have on-leash fight problems either. It does take time for the dog to understand that a restraint is attached to them and that you are at the other end of that restraint. There are different methods to doing this. Just to name a couple, train your puppy on leash from the very beginning. Get them used to it. Get them understanding what the leash is, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. When you're out for a walk, do directional changes. So if you've been going straight for a little bit, or if your dog just starts pulling you in a certain direction and you're not happy about it, change directions, go a different way. And the more you do these directional changes, the more that your dog will start paying attention to what you're actually doing, and then it becomes a more cohesive walk. Another way to do it is just stop walking altogether. So if you stop walking when your dog's pulling, your dog's just going to try to keep going. You're not budging anywhere. Your dog might stand there sniffing around for a little bit, but eventually he's going to look back at you and be like, what's going on? And then your dog may come back to you, and you can reset your dog in the heel and just keep going. There's a little bit more to those, but just essentially what you want to be doing. So I meet a lot of people and clients, when they take their dogs out, the dog's either at the very end of the leash, or the leash is wound up around the person's hand very tightly, and they're on a very short leash. So to correct this, if the dog's at the very end of the leash, I hope that it's a normal 6-foot leash and not one of those retractable leashes, because those retractable leashes are very dangerous. The issue with them is once the dog is fully out, you got no way of getting that dog in quickly if need be. If another dog is approaching, or if the dog jumps onto the road, or anything happens, you're going to end up grabbing onto that wire or coil, whatever it might be, and you're going to have to reel the dog in. If the dog just takes off and you go to grab the thing, grab the ribbon or the string, whatever it is, you're going to end up getting hurt. The dog can also tie you up, can tie up other dogs, can tie up other people. It becomes a very dangerous hazard. Please do not use them. I see a lot of people who do use them. Their dogs aren't the best on leash to begin with. They don't listen to the owners. And so for the person who wraps that leash around your hand, stop doing that. Essentially, we don't want to do that because it's a safety hazard. If that leash is wrapped around your hand and you're walking in 60 to 100-pound dog, that dog can pull you down the road if it really wants to. If it gets into a fight with another dog, you're going to be attached to your dog, which means you're in the line of fire. You want to be able to drop your leash as quickly and as safely as possible and pick it up again and get control of your dog in the situation. So what I like people to do is, if you have the loop of the leash like this, you take your thumb and you can place it in the loop so that it sits like this, and then from there you just grab the excess slack and you just hold it in one hand. Or if the loop is big enough, you can slide your wrist through it and then grab the slack of the leash. And what this allows you to do is drop the leash if there's an emergency, or if you just need to quickly let go of it and grab it again, or stand on it and pick it up again. Do not wrap it around. It's very dangerous. Once you understand how to properly hold your leash, so again, the two methods, thumb through the loop or wrist through the loop, and you're no longer putting yourself in harm's way, you can move on to understanding why your dog pulls. So it's very simple, actually. Dogs walk at a different gait and different speed than we do. So understanding that, first off, will help you understand why they're constantly going much quicker than you are, and you're constantly either pulling back on them or trying to keep up with them. Most dogs need to be ran. They need to run. It's a great energy release for them. That's their natural motion, is a very quick walk to trot, to gallop and canter and gone. Once you get that, once you understand that that's how your dog is supposed to walk, we can then kind of reverse engineer it to have them walk more like we do, or not like we do, but more at our pace. It's not really fair to the dog to do that to them, mainly because they do want to just go, and that is their normal gait, so we're kind of stopping them. Like if you take your leash off your dog, their nose is going to the ground and they're gone. And that's just a given with any dog, especially with beagles and any kind of sniffing dog. Dogs that run even, they need to go. I have an Australian Shepherd. She likes to go. So there's times where we'll just bolt for a block or two on the run, and then I'll chill out and then continue my walk. That's one reason that they pull. Another reason that they pull is they picked up a scent of another dog. They picked up a scent of an animal. They are excited because they're about to get to a place that they like to go to the bathroom. It's their favorite park. It's where their favorite dog friend lives. They're on their way home. A lot of dogs get super excited when they are on their way home, and they just bolt towards the door as well, and they can find their way home very, very easily. We got to be careful with this pulling, because pulling actually creates, or can create, sorry, I should say, leash aggression. So I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here with leash aggression. So we have to understand that if you have a dog on a rear clip harness, that means that the leash attaches to the back, and your dog pulls, you pull back on it. What you're allowing that dog to then do is dig in with its shoulders and drive forward more. And it's going to use the harness to its advantage by digging in and really just going at it. And what you're going to end up doing is yanking back on that dog even more and even harder to get it to stop. But what's going to end up happening is you're probably going to get your dog to rear up like this. And what that does is causes a problem with body language being thrown out there that you're not meaning to do and you don't even realize you're doing. So if there happens to be a dog approaching you and you're pulling back on your dog and your dog rears up, they just made themselves look bigger to that other dog unintentionally. And that other dog thinks that they want to fight. That's not necessarily what it is. Your dog's just excited and wants to go say hi to them, but you're not allowing it to by pulling back on the leash, and now your dog's posturing up, and now a fight's about to happen. Avoid the other dog at all costs, because a problem will ensue, and people or dogs may get hurt. So, how do we avoid this? Like I mentioned before, directional changes if you have to, especially if your dog is super excited greeting dogs. Turn around, go a different direction, cross the road, go around, pull your dog up onto a driveway, get it to sit and wait, get its attention on you. Many different ways. Talk to your local trainer about it. Another way of doing this, get a front clip harness. So if this is the back of the dog, this is the chest of the dog, this is where the leash would go, on the chest. So what ends up happening when the dog pulls, the leash comes over the shoulder and back and redirects the dog. What does that mean? That means that you no longer have to worry about pulling back on the dog. The leash and the harness do the work for you. No dog is getting hurt. The dog's not getting choked. The dog cannot use the harness to its advantage and help pull more. It will just get turned right around. And this will allow for a proper greeting or a more controlled, comfortable greeting for the dogs. And no dog will end up rearing. So this is why you see a lot of the smaller dogs that yap a lot hopping down the sidewalk, because what ends up happening, the owner will pull back on it, and because they weigh about 2 pounds, they get lifted up on their feet. All of a sudden the other dog is reacting, and then now your dog is reacting because they're both barking at each other for no reason whatsoever, but it's an unintentional body language mistake on our part. So we have to keep ourselves conscious about this and what we're doing with the dogs and how we're manipulating the body. So keep that in mind. We do want to avoid any kind of body language change. We want the dogs to be able to greet each other naturally. And what is a natural greeting? A natural greeting is nose to bum. And they should be kind of rounded out like this. So if this is the head, this is the bum, it should be like this, and they should be able to go in circles. And you should never have a dog going head to head or nose to nose, because it will cause tension. It is tension already because you're probably tight on that leash and the other person's tight on their leash, and you're holding the dog's back, and the dog's thinking, why is there so much tension? Why is there so much anxiety and stress going down this leash into me? And that's when you start getting frozen dogs, and that's when attacks can happen out of nowhere and nobody expects it, because you're not paying attention to what the dogs are doing. You're paying attention to what's going on in your mind, thinking, oh my God, I can't let my dog say hi to this dog. I don't know this dog's going to freak out and blah, blah, blah. And the reality of it, we are the ones causing the problem. So loosen up on the leashes. Allow the dogs to greet each other properly. On a loose leash, nose to bum, if both parties are okay with it. Always ask. So once you understand why your dog is pulling and now how to stop it or redirect it, start structuring your walks. So when you structure your walk, what do you want to do? You don't want to let your dog just to aimlessly sniff around and go back and forth across the sidewalk, because that's not a walk. That's your dog just brainlessly sniffing things. It's great for your dog. He or she is getting all the brain stimulation, but you're going to be annoyed because you're just standing in the same spot probably for 10, 15, 20 minutes. This is how you structure a walk. Depending on the length of it, I take my dogs out 45 minutes to an hour. So depending on which direction I go, it's a different route. So I will start my dogs off with allowing them on a very loose leash to the end of the leash. Now, I know earlier I mentioned that there are some people who let their dogs off at the end of the leash. Not every dog should be at the end of a leash. A puppy should never be at the end of a leash. And the reason for that is it could be very dangerous for them. If another dog comes out of nowhere, might attack them. They don't have the control. They don't have the ability to listen to you if they're not trained, especially, and if they're very young. They're very excitable. They can slip out of the lead even, and they're gone, and you're further back than them. So never have them at the end of a leash. Try to have them next to you or in the vicinity of like a foot or two away from you. And so for me, my dogs are older. I trust them. I know what they do. I know how they react to other dogs. I know how they react to people and the environment that they're in. I will let them at the end of the leash because I know on my street they're going to stop at the fire hydrants, they're going to stop at the power box, they're going to stop on my neighbor's lawns, they're going to stop at the trees, and they're going to sniff those things, and then they're going to pee and poop on my street. Once I get off my street and a little bit down the road and onto another street, so you're looking at probably 5 minutes, then I will shorten up the leash a bit. And how do I do that? I literally just grab a little bit of the slack. I still have a loose leash on both of them, and I just walk. And I keep bumping my microphone, so I apologize if you hear that. I just walk. And when I'm walking, they're going to try and jet off to the sides to go and sniff and do their thing. I'm not going to let them. I'm going to say, let's go, and just keep walking. They're going to try a couple more times, but I'm still not going to let them do it. After the couple of times they try and fail, they're going to just walk with me. Once I get down a block or two, I will then let them go onto the free leash again and let them do the sniffing, let them go to the bathroom again if they have to, and we'll continue on like this for a little bit. I have a tendency of not liking to stand still. This is me, this isn't everybody. So what ends up happening is when they are on that long lead or at the end of the lead, I will catch up to them. I'll say, let's go. They'll stop sniffing. They'll run up a little bit ahead of me. They'll continue sniffing there, and we'll keep doing that for a little bit. So that way, I don't actually have to stop moving. I can keep my heart rate up. I don't have to pause. If they have to go to the bathroom, they can go. I will stop and pick up their poop, obviously. But I find this, for me at least, it works. It keeps my Aussie going. It allows her to burn off more energy as well because she's running a little bit and she's sniffing, so she's getting the mental stimulation as well, which is extremely important. And this is why we need our dogs to sniff, because it allows them to get mentally stimulated, and it helps them work their nose muscles as well. So we also want to keep that in mind. So I will keep doing this for a little bit, for as long as they're on the long lead. Now, don't get me wrong, I will stop for them and let them sniff things. So if I've been walking for like 15, 20 minutes and we've been doing this kind of thing, I will stop at some point and just let them sniff in the area, and then we can continue going from there. Now, this goes on for 45 minutes to an hour. How many times I do it, it just really depends on what I'm feeling. If I'm in a rush to get back to the house, if it's freezing cold out, or if it's a nice day. If it's a nice night or a nice evening, like summertime, or in the spring, then I will take a little bit longer. I'll slow it down. I won't be in such a rush. I'll stand around a little bit more for them and allow them to sniff more. If it's freezing cold outside, like we're getting into our winter now, or it's raining or something, and I need to get back to the house for another reason, then I will kind of keep them moving as much as I can, but still give them that freedom to sniff. Again, this is me. Do what works for you. But once you get that down, you're going to notice a big difference in how your dog walks. So yes, my dogs will get out the door and they'll be super excited and they'll kind of run towards the sidewalk and sniff and pee right away. Fine. They will, I wouldn't say they're going to pull me down the sidewalk, but they're very happy and excited to be outside. So they're going to pull me a little bit. I will give them that little bit of energy to allow them to pull me a little bit. But once they get their initial pees and poos out of the way, and after we round the bend and we start walking, the pulling will stop for me. Halfway through the walk, the pulling is gone because they've already burnt out their energy from the constant motion and constant movement and sniffing. Realize and understand that mental stimulation does tire them out. It's not physical, but it's the same thing as sitting there reading a textbook kind of thing or a chapter book. It burns your brain out and it tires them out drastically, and it's fantastic. So the dogs will stop pulling. They will listen to me a lot more, and they're not going to pull off to the side as much. They'll be happier just to walk. I will stop for them at those times because I know they are tired, and I'll let them sniff around for a little bit, but we'll keep going. So you're going to notice that the structuring the walk, it gives you what you want. You'll keep your heart rate up. You won't have to stop as much. Your dogs will get to sniff. They'll get to relieve themselves as well, and you're just going to have a more enjoyable walk. That's the important part here. You have to enjoy your walks, because if you don't, you're not going to be walking your dog very long. And I've run into this situation with clients who've called me up saying, I can't walk my dog anymore. It's not enjoyable. I've actually stopped walking them altogether because they pull too much. So we dive right into this. We do some training with them. I get them to do some work before we go on a walk, get the dog's brain working. So this will help you as well. So if you are training your dog or in the middle of training your dog, do some training before you go out on that walk. And by doing that, you're going to put your dog's brain into work mode. And then when you go out onto the walk, it'll continue being in work mode. And it's going to help you and it's going to help your dog because that structure will come very handy. You can practice directional changes on your driveway even. So you can go in circles, you can do bout changes, you can do figure eights with them. And what this does is it gets your dog's brain working again and working forward, which we want. But it also gets your dog to start concentrating on you and what you are doing, because you're just going in circles and all of a sudden you're changing direction on it, you're walking into them, you're doing figure eights, you're doing all sorts of crazy things. So your dog is thinking, what is wrong with this person? What are they doing? And why are they doing this to me? And then all of a sudden you start going out on your walk and they realize, oh, okay, we're going forward now. Oh, directional change. Oh, we're going another direction now. Oh, we're turning back. So they will be focused more on you. And by doing this, you can be focused less on what's going around, more on you, and more on the walk and on the structure. And everybody will be happy. You'll keep your heart rate up, like I mentioned. You'll get your exercise in. The dog will get their exercise in. They'll get their brain drain going. And when you come home, they're going to have a nice drink and then just collapse on their bed. And that is essentially what you want for a walk. So, what are the takeaways from all of this? Am I rambling? A, do not wrap the leash around your hand. Loop it. Thumb or over the wrist. Gather the slack. One hand, that's all you need. You do not need this two-handed stuff. It doesn't do anything. You're still in control with the one hand. This hand does nothing. Okay? It's easier just loop it and grab the slack. And you can walk down the street with one hand. Keep your dog to one side. It's very important. Do not let your dog crisscross all over the place. I should have mentioned this earlier. Keep them to one side. Whatever side, the left or the right, whatever you are comfortable with. Keep them to that side. That's where you want them. 2, front clip harnesses. Okay? On the chest. It will help with redirection. It might get a little annoying because the leash might get stuck on your dog's paw a lot. I taught my dog a lift command, so every time I do it, I grab the paw, lift it up, remove the leash, but while I was doing that, I'd say lift. So that became the command, and now it's just second nature to her. When the leash gets stuck under her paw, then she stops, lifts, and I can remove it. But I have her walking on a collar now, no longer front clip harness. If you need a brand of a front clip harness, Easy Walk, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they are a front clip harness that is a training harness. 3, rude leash behavior leads to leash aggression. Okay? So if you're pulling back on your dog and your dog is rearing, it's telling another dog they want to fight. They're trying to make themselves look bigger. It's unintentional. Okay? So try not to pull back on your dog. Change directions if you have to. Cross the street if you have to. Try to maintain your dog's energy levels and lower their body language. 4, understand why your dog is pulling. So as we mentioned, it's in their nature to go a lot quicker than we are. Their gait is very different than ours. Their speed is very different than ours. You take them off leash, their nose is down to the ground, and they're gone. Okay, so keep that in mind. And 5, structure your walks to make them more enjoyable for all. That is the most important. If you do not enjoy your walk, you will stop walking your dog, and you're going to call me up and say, Brian, I no longer walk my dog. I don't know what to do. My shoulder constantly hurts. My back hurts. I can't deal with this anymore. Help me. And I will. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram at Wagging Woofies. You can also find me on Facebook, same thing, Wagging Woofies. You can also send me an email, waggingwoofies1@gmail.com. If you're wondering why Wagging Woofies 1, it's because I had the initial waggingwoofies@gmail.com, but then I deleted that account stupidly. So, until next time, keep them leashed.